Members of the Polar Bear Club think that's just part of the fun. Jake Putnam takes us there.
Deep snow in the rugged mountains has brought a frozen sense to the high country. But far below, in Lucky Peak Reservoir, the silence has been shattered by skiers, water skiers. Each year, the hardiest skiers wait in line for a trip across the frozen water. They're part of the Polar Bear Club, and they ski for thrills.
Oh, I'm frozen! But we love it. We love it. Crazy.
Jack London eats her heart out. On this day, between 15 or 20 skiers will take to the water. 30-degree water that freezes to the skin, sticks to the hair, and gives a skier an electric jolt and makes feet, arms, and legs inoperable.
Fingertips. These fingertips. I borrowed my mom's kayaking booties. She's a kayaker. So feet were okay. It's just my fingertips right now hurt.
Well-wishers waited on the snow-covered beach. They came to watch the madness and to lend frozen skiers a hand or a blanket.
Just got a good start. We got 7 skiers that have already been out and they're waiting in line, so
What's your outside temperature?
I think we'll get 15 skiers or 20 maybe.
It's freedom that draws skiers here. It's facing winter head-on with bare feet and mastering the cold. It's gliding across the water with a stiff wind in your face, trying to keep from falling. Some did it, others took the plunge.
It's too rough. Way too rough. Couldn't stand the ski.
Winter water skiing has become a New Year's tradition for these Polar Bear Club members. A fad free of lift lines and crowds and full of spills and chills. Jake Putnam, CNN, Boise, Idaho.
And there you have it. A belated Happy New Year. I'm Chuck Roberts. Around the world in 30 minutes, this is Headline News.
Future, October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're going to be able to see our wedding.
Wow. The intent here is to gain a clear perception of humanity. Where we've been, where we're going, the pitfalls and the possibilities, the perils and the promise.
Where do I become like a rich rock star? It's time to take another ride back to the future. Hello, everyone. I'm John Patterson.
And I'm Gretchen Anderson. The world premiere of Back to the Future Part 2 is in full swing in Boise at this hour.
The movie stars Michael J. Fox and promises to be another blockbuster. Producer Frank Marshall is a familiar face to Boiseans. He's premiered 3 movies here prior to Back to the Future Part 2. Earlier this afternoon, Boiseans dressed in 1950s attire and futuristic costumes to get in the mood for the premiere at the Egyptian Theater.
I've seen some of the previews of it, and I think it's going to be a great movie. It's a good fundraiser for the community, and we're really excited about it.
News Center 7's Jake Putnam is joining us live from the world premiere party. Jake, what's going on out there right now at the Sandpiper?
Well, John and Gretchen, like you said, I'm here at the Sandpiper. It's the world premiere party for Back to the Future Part 2. It's a closed party, but we have a special treat. We're going to take our viewers inside, take a look around, see what people think of the movie. And as you can see, we have a lot of people dressed up in the 50s and 60s and 70s out costumes. Right here is the time tunnel, and we're going to talk to a few people, see what they think of the movie. Back to the Future Part 2, what'd you think?
Oh, it was wonderful.
What'd you like about it?
Oh, I like the black leather jacket. No, it was great. I like the way they intermingled the first one with the second one. I thought they did a really excellent job with that.
Okay, we have someone from the future. This is someone from the past, someone from the future. What did you think of the movie?
I thought it was very creative and really a nice surprise ending. You're going to love it.
All right. And John and Gretchen, I had the chance to talk to producer Frank Marshall earlier, and here's a look at the making of the movie.
Here we go. Rolling. Action.
Stop. The makers of Back to the Future Part 2 went to the successful cast of Part 1. The opening scene picks up from the new improved 1985, when Marty McFly and Doc Brown jump into the DeLorean time machine to fix another mishap in the future. Producer Frank Marshall.
They get into the DeLorean and they back up, and Marty says, we haven't got enough road to get up to 88. And Doc says, well, we're going, we don't need roads. And we take off, and the car actually takes off and flies to the year 2015. So we get a look at what the future is going to look like in Hill Valley.
Information about the future can be very powerful, and if it falls into the wrong hands,
it can affect the world, which it does in this movie. They've slipped up and they've caused events to be altered very negatively. And they have to go back and repair the damage.
Marty McFly is hurled back to 1955, then later to the year 2015. All the set changes presented special problems to the crew.
It's a lot harder, of course, than going into the past, because the past, you know what that's like. Everybody's vision of the future is going to be different. So we took a lot of license and we made the future fun. You'll see a lot of interesting and unusual things in the future. We have flying cars, we have hoverboards, we have a lot of robotics and a lot of video things happening in the future.
In a surprise twist, Marty's mother, Lorraine, ends up remarrying the richest man in the world, Marty's arch-rival, Biff Tanner, and the serene town of Hill Valley is transformed into a futuristic mess. Michael J. Fox, Leah Thompson, and Thomas Wilson done special makeup to fit into the year 2015.
We have more crammed into this movie than I think any movie that we've ever done. It's just full of visual things and little twists and surprises, and I think you're going to have to see this movie 2 or 3 times to get everything.
The movie ends with Marty and Doc climbing into the DeLorean and traveling back to the future in another attempt to put 1985 back together. Back to the Future Part 3 is now in the works. Expect to see Marty McFly on a horse.
And John and Gretchen, I'm back here at the world premiere party. It is packed in here, and a touch of glitter, lights, and a touch of Hollywood. I'm here with producer Frank Marshall. And Frank, I guess the question everyone's asking is, a horse, Marty McFly on a horse? Tell us about that.
Well, actually, I'd rather have you see the movie to find out what's happening with Marty on the horse, but it's a little bit of a preview of things to come next Memorial Day with Back to the Future 3.
Okay, and as you know, the proceeds from this movie are going to the Discovery Center, and we have Lorette Williams over here. Lorette Williams from the Discovery Center. You guys must be feeling great about this whole thing. How'd you guys make out in this premiere?
Great. We really did a good job, and thanks the community very much. We made about $15,000 total.
$15,000 total, John and Gretchen. I'm going back inside here. We're having a great time down here at the Sandpiper.
Looks like a really fun time, Jake. We were wondering why Boise. We're honored for the world premiere to be here, but why did Frank select Boise?
Well, Frank has a lot of ties here in Boise, and he's premiered his last 3. That's a tie right there.
Right here.
These are his Boise ties here. Frank loves it here, and that's why he comes back every year.
All right, well, we're glad to have him. Jake, have fun at the party.
Okay, I'm going in here.
Okay, see you later.
In other news,
October 19th, an army of carpenters, electricians, and construction workers are putting the final touches into the mall before grand opening deadlines. News Center 7's Jake Putnam visited the mall with the man responsible for making it a reality.
The graceful Town Square Mall has grown and blossomed from a field east of Boise. Blueprints were completed in 1986. Now, 2 years later, the mall is racing towards completion. The father of the mall and chief architect Frank Schaefer makes last-minute changes. He's not afraid to roll up his sleeves and help.
See if you could just replace it.
Yeah.
From the parking lot to the huge picture windows, the mall is designed with people in mind. Inside, natural light from the skylights stream down to the mall floor.
The thing we wanted to make this was a very open feel. And if you notice, the openings are really large. The long runs down the mall, there's very small bridges to get across. That way you can see upper level and lower level at both at the same time. And the center court is very large. It's larger than everybody that saw the drawings thought it was going to be. And we knew it was large, but that's what they wanted.
Schaefer is visiting from Wichita, Kansas. He takes a close look at every detail, making sure his visions correspond with his pet project.
I'm checking right now for final inspection. They look real good. Down here it's still rough, so you can see the difference between the finished product and the rough. And when they start putting the plants and the benches and all the little amenities, it'll just start looking real good.
In 2 short months, the mall will finally open. For Frank Schaefer, long project will finally end. thousands of Boise shoppers will walk the town square mall and bask in the swirl of light and colors, all designed by Schaefer. Jake Putnam, News Center 7.
Finally today, are you looking for a weekend activity? Well, News Center 7's Pat Kelly, Jake Putnam, and photographer Charlie Ellard say they have just the suggestion for you.
The high road to adventure often turns into a trail. On Mount Bora, it's a steep trail lined with shale. It makes for rough walking. I usually follow other people and do stories about their adventures, but in this instance, it's my day to do what I want to do. Street reporter Jake Putnam came along for the hike. He's a native Idahoan who's never bagged an Idaho summit, followed by Scott Smith, an economist from Washington, D.C., and an old friend of mine from college. News Center 7 photographer Charlie Ellard volunteered to take these pictures. He says he'll never volunteer to shoot for me again. You start out walking up on your hind legs like any big game animal. It seems like the uphill hike will never end. Over and over in my mind, I think about sayings like, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. After a few hours in the blistering sun, I hoped that the going would get easy or that I'd get smart and turn back to go fishing. Slowly we climb, onward and upward, to new heights. My legs feel like I've been walking forever, and I trained for this hike. Besides, you have to stay in shape to run the adventure beat. But running and adventure battled for last place on my list of good ideas during this hike. 3 or 4 people have been killed climbing Bora. That gives trips like this a special ambiance. After 7.5 hours, we reached the summit. Time to celebrate with a drink of water.
I was scared, but I didn't let anyone show it. I just hugged the earth and I just climbed. I tried not to think what was going on. I just did it, but I just can't believe it. Being up here is just incredible.
I left yesterday morning from Washington, D.C., and today I'm at 12,000 feet plus, and it's been a real challenge. The mountain itself is a real challenge, but that made it just a little bit worse. But it was exactly the type of challenge you want to have. I enjoyed clinging to the side of the rocks a lot. I haven't done anything like that in years.
You know, the whole thing reminds me of Aeschylus. I think he said that man was not meant for safe havens. And this isn't a safe haven. This is a thrill all the way up this thing.
Idaho's a nice state. I came out here last year for my trip too, and I backpacked for, about 10 days out in the White Cloud Mountains with some college friends, and it was absolutely wonderful, and it's nice to be out here again.
Yeah, the view from the top makes the hike up well worth the effort. Of course, my friends believed the big lie, that going down is easier than going up. After 6.5 hours of moaning every step of the way down, Jake, Scott, and Charlie decided to let me live, because now they really had a good story to tell everyone in the newsroom. But for me, it's just another adventure and another day in television news.
And they did have a lot of stories, but I think the one point that Jake wanted to make is that he'll leave that physical adventure reporting stuff to Pat. Pat's
Kelly.
Built for
the
it.
bigger guy, the big guy, right.
That's going to do it this afternoon. Dee Sarton will be here at 5 o'clock for you for Idaho at 5.
Have a great afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow.
I know, Johnny Walker 89 on there all suited up and ready to float. They decided to let me in here. I was wondering if you could give me some tips, because I'm a first timer in this. What should I do? Just lay them flat and don't bother about the gates or anything. Just go straight. And miss them all. My coach says race your own race and don't worry about who's standing next to you. Who's your team? Susie Patterson.
Remember, you had
it's the pro.
You bought the lot, and then when they went, they said, "Oh no, that's not. It's over here."
Look at the draw of these teams.
So are you back to where you started?
I was with Stein last year. It was a hot team too. We didn't win it. Do you have anything in the works now? Yeah, I just finished a film called Pink Cadillac, and that'll be out in the spring. And then Bird, the film I directed, Charlie Parker will go abroad in March.
The thousands to watch. News Center 7's Pat Kelly was one of them.
No matter how rich and no matter how famous, you can't escape the early morning chill on Mount Baldy. It's race day, and the stars are nervous.
I don't know how to put this bib on.
That's News Center 7 reporter Jake Putnam. It's his first time racing against people like Clint Eastwood, Mario Hemingway, and Peter Cetera. This is no time for a shining star to take a fall. When in Rome, act like a Roman. But these actors are skiing, so what do?
You smile and you wave and you say, I'm sorry, no cameras. And you just walk away. Okay. Try and act cool and don't fall.
Don't fall.
Whatever you do, don't fall. Okay?
Okay.
He's our man. We're all right.
That's good advice to deal with all the autograph hounds, picture takers, and fans. But you still have to run the race course. Advice from actor Scott Glenn.
You know about going up and down? When you go up, go out while you're trying to tackle someone. So you stay forward on your skis and aim for about 2.5 to 3 feet to each side of the gates. Turn as soon as you come under the gates. And that's advice from somebody who doesn't know anything about it.
It's okay to get nervous right before you ski, especially when the eyes of Idaho are upon you. But that's no time to act half-baked.
I hurt my hand. I don't know if I can race now. I'll do it.
State bureaucrat Carl Wilgus has just the tip to take the edge off.
Well, the secret is get out of the gate quick, early, get ahead of your opponent, and take a right turn and a left turn, right turn, left turn. If you find yourself making 2 left turns in a row, you're in the wrong course.
Clint Eastwood has a simpler approach.
What should I do? Just lay them flat and don't bother about the gates or anything. Just go straight. And miss them all. My coach says race your own race and don't worry about who's standing next to you.
Finally, it's our hero's turn at bat. But this isn't Mudville, and that's not Casey. It's Jake Putnam, and he's ready to race.
He looks nice and peaceful here on the top of the race course, but
I have to tell you, once you get in the gates, everybody's enthusiastic. Your heart starts pounding and you ski as hard as you can ski.
But that's no problem for Putnam. He came to socialize, ski, see, and be seen. Besides, it's not whether you win or lose, or even how well you ski. It's how you stand at the top of the race course. Just make sure you smile in the limelight with the stars. In Sun Valley, Pat Kelly, News Center 7.
And good night, everyone.
Good night.
The Upper South Fork of the Payette has become one of the world's premier whitewater rivers. Each year, more and more tourists are discovering the wild stream. But hydroelectric developers have discovered the river too, and a massive fight over the resource continues.
Northwest Power planning proposal for the anadromous fish also covers this area. This is a #1 rating, which is good. It did it both in wildlife and fishing habitat.
Outfitters, kayakers, and sportsmen have joined forces in a group called Friends of the Payette. Their goal is to preserve the river. They gave policymakers an up-close look at their cause.
The whole thing right here is this is entirely education for the political officials that are going to make the decisions on this river. We now have interim protection for the South Fork of the Payette. Now we need the Water Resources Board to understand what's in here so they can make the correct designations for that.
State and federal decision makers had time to soak up the issues.
I think the organization, the Friends of Payette, have gone to a lot of effort to make sure we have good information about what they're concerned about keeping the river clean, about, at the same time, developing a good, clean industry like the outfitters and guides have. So I'm really impressed with the way they put this together. I've learned a lot.
We were out here to just get a lay of the land, see what kind of recreational values there were. And quite frankly, I think that they have some super recreational values in this river. Right back, left forward. Good job, forward. Good job, keep it going. Forward, forward, forward. Okay, Trev.
As guides barked orders, crews worked the rapids and took in the spectacular scenery.
Guys having fun over there? Oh, it's pretty good.
The Friends of the Payette hope lawmakers will be able to make future decisions based on what they learned on the river, and hope the good time spent here will pay off down the road. Jake Putnam, News Center 7. Athletic competition at its best. Graceful competitors battle on the playing field, flying, running, throwing. This is the spirit and beauty of the Olympics. In the streets of downtown Boise, the same spirit of competition reigns. It's the Boise Office Olympics 1988, where white-collar athletes give it their all in hopes of Olympic gold. But these Olympics are different from the traditional kind. Skills learned, used, mastered on the business battlefield make their way into competition, like the difficult coffee break relay. But harsh winds on this day tested the athletes' honed skills. The staple-off became a test of patience and coordination.
Oh, look, Boise Cascade E team and looks like Boise Cascade D team tied for second place. They had whatever they were going to staple. They had 8 of them. They were brochures, prospectus that you were stapling together. Job resumes.
The trash can free throw competition not only tested the athletes' throwing and aiming abilities, but also organizational skills.
Need more paper. We need more paper.
Thank you. You guys must really work because you don't seem to be doing that well.
Well, to be honest with you, this right here, they're using steel baskets and we're used to wicker in our office. That's the biggest problem with that.
For sports fans, it was a chance to get in Olympic spirit, months ahead of the Seoul Olympics. All in all, 115 Boise office workers took part in the event from 23 of Boise's major corporations. Already, Olympic trials are being planned for next year. Jake Putnam, News Center 7.
That's about 20 feet right there. 5. Should start stabilizing right now.
Make a right turn at attack in here.
High over the Idaho River on the Idaho-Oregon border, air crews practice one of the trickiest and most difficult maneuvers, air-to-air refueling. Today's mission, refuel 4 RF-4s from a KC-10.
4 ship F-4s off our left wing.
The name of the game is combat readiness. Crews from the 190th out of Gowan Field logged hundreds of hours of airtime, honing their flying skills, waiting for the call. 36 aircraft and support crews must be ready to move anywhere in the world within 72 hours. A move that could require at least 8 to 10 refuelings.
Our pilots have got to be provisioned all the time, and that's why we practice the refueling so often. It's a very perishable skill. It's not something you can do once every 6 months and maintain any proficiency. So we like to refuel at least once a month, and oftener if we can get the tanker support from the other bases. Very important part of our mission to get where we're going.
Today, Idaho Guardsmen were joined by a tanker crew at a March Air Force Base in California. For the next couple of hours, the F-4 and tanker crews will work and concentrate together. The boom operator or boomer readies himself for the target. An F-4 gently moves into place.
I'm going to clear him into contact. I'll get this light and I'll push full forward on it. It's going to give him a light that tells him to come all the way in. When he gets fairly close, I'm going to start flashing the light. When I think I can plug him, I'll fly the boom to where I can get him, and I'll extend it into him.
After 6 minutes and 6,000 gallons, the next F-4 is ready to refuel.
I was in the lead, so I went down first and got on the boom and took my fuel, and then cycled back up to the wing, and each of the others followed suit. Beautiful day for it, smooth air. This is the way we like it.
After 2 passes, the 4 ships are off on a recon mission. In the cockpit of the KC-10, the pilot and navigator make preparations to head home.
We're at a descent 1,000 feet per minute down to an MBA of 3160. It'll be a left seat, full stop, 35 flap landing. Any questions?
The last F-4s make their way back to Gowan Field. In the coming months, they will continue to practice unnoticed until they get the call. Jake Putnam, News Center 7. This is Jake Putnam. News Center 7 was the first and only crew into the Lowman area after that firestorm, providing you with continuous live coverage from the Lowman and Idaho City fires, with constant update from blazes throughout the state. And News Center 7 continues to bring you complete news coverage. That's why we're Idaho's news channel.
I'm Jake Putnam. Join me for a live report tonight from Idaho City.
Good evening. Idaho is a state besieged by fire tonight. As of this moment, nearly 40,000 acres have gone up in flames.
The most destructive fires are in the Lowman area. Flames and smoke have destroyed dozens of structures and driven hundreds of people from their homes. Many of those people have taken refuge in Idaho City. That is where News Center 7's Jake Putnam is standing by live right now. Jake, what can you tell us?
John, I'm standing here in Idaho City, where Highway 21 is still closed down. To the north of us, the area around Lowman still lies in ruins. Last night, a firestorm ripped through the area, destroying at least 25 structures. Hundreds of people were evacuated from the Lowman area late last night and again today. This morning, photographer Tom Hadzer and I went into the area with the first crews. Here's what we saw.
First light outside of Lowman. This is the aftermath of a firestorm. Road plows were called into service last night. They'll spend the day clearing Highway 21 of snags and burning debris. Most of Lowman is untouched by flames, but north of town, destruction and wreckage stretch along Highway 21.
We had a real serious firestorm yesterday. It came up this way. The humidities went way down yesterday afternoon, about 2 o'clock. The wind picked up, drove the fire up the Payette River and across here at the Haven. Well, once it went through this area, then it continued on up north. We're thinking now that the fire is approximately about 7,000 acres.
The fire swept over the ridge above the neighborhood, above Haven Lodge, destroying everything in its path. At least a dozen homes were leveled by the sheer force of the fire. Mobile homes melted in the heat. Firefighters say roofs that didn't blow away exploded in flames. Roy Oliver's home caught fire minutes after he left. He escaped with just the shirt on his back.
When I went down yesterday, I didn't have no shirt. I just had a pair of shorts on and my slippers. Oh, I don't know.
Most of Haven Lodge was destroyed by the blaze, including a water truck being used to fight the fire. Meanwhile, the ruins continue to burn. Crews are too thin, too busy digging lines around homes that still can be saved.
It was a real firestorm. Most fires are driven by wind, but this fire developed to the point that it really actually generated its own wind and became what we refer to as a firestorm.
Homeowners, after getting a close look at the property, were re-evacuated. Crews prepare for another long day. Property estimates range in the millions of dollars, and the fire continues to burn out of control.
And John and Gretchen, despite the fact that Highway 21 is blocked, we have watched a spectacular air show overhead as bomber after bomber have worked these two fires. You can see one fire over my shoulder burning outside Idaho City. There is another plume up above the Lowman fire. Right now it is hot. The winds are coming up. All the perfect recipes for a disaster.
Jake, has anyone been injured or killed as a result of these fires?
Luckily, John, there have been no injuries. They went into those neighborhoods last night, braving flames. They told the people to leave. Most of the people left. Luckily, there have been no injuries and no deaths.
What's the feeling among the residents that have been evacuated from the Lowman area, Jake?
We talked to some of those residents this morning. As I said before, we were in there early this morning. They kicked us all out again. They evacuated the whole area. Looking at the people, I would say they're in shock. They can't believe that something like this would happen to them, that their whole lives would go up into smoke. As we walked through the area, John and Gretchen, it looked like an airstrike had come down and destroyed whole sections of a subdivision there. It's just incredible.
All right, Jake, does it look like firefighters are beginning to turn the tide on this at all, or are they still in the same situation they were yesterday?
Well, John, I would say that they're not even close to being in the same situation as we were yesterday. Things are worse. The fire blew up from just, 600 acres yesterday to almost 7,000 today. You can imagine what it's like up there right now with this heat and wind.
All right, Jake, thanks very much for that report.
Jake Putnam is in the Banks area at this hour. He is keeping track of the Fleming Creek fire. Let's go to him. What's the latest, Jake?
Well, we're standing here in Banks parking lot. As you can see behind me, the fire is still burning up on this peninsula or this ridge. Fire is burning in between the two rivers. We did have some problems yesterday with some backfires, and that seems to be the talk of the town. Joining me now is Cliff Shaw. He's the fire information officer here at the Fleming fire. Cliff, give us a briefing of what's going on now and give us an idea of
this controversy, what seems to be the problem here?
At the moment, we're about 6,000 acres, and the fire that jumped yesterday to the north of the South Fork of the Payette is pretty well contained at this time. However, we're still very concerned about the fire south of the river.
Things have stabilized a lot here. Hand lines have been dug. This fire could be knocked down at the end of the day if we get some cooperation with the weather.
All right, Jake, reporting live via satellite from Banks, thank you very much. Of course, as you know, there are hundreds of fires going on in Idaho as we speak. And just how fast things can change, and like David said, 8 to 10 miles is still quite a ways away, but when those fires move, they really go, don't they?
8 to 10 miles is nothing, Dee. When these fires get going, it sucks all the oxygen out of the bottom of the canyon floor, and the fire just roars through there. When we were in Loman, you can see some of the pictures here. That picture there was taken, probably about 9 o'clock in the morning. And you can see how thick the smoke is there.
Out, isn't it?
It's incredible. And it's also cold there. Every day, right around noon, this inversion lifts, and then the fire just takes off. Very similar to the situation that Dave's talking about in Garden City right now.
Garden Valley.
Garden Valley, excuse me.
Jake, you had a chance to talk with the victims, the people who have just been devastated by this. I think all of us are concerned for them. How are they reacting? Are they just in shock from the situation?
We went to the Oliver residence, and we were there when they came home for the first time. They hopped out of the car, they looked the ruins that was once their home, and they were just in shock. I think everyone is in shock. And the people are, an hour or two a morning, and then they're rushed right back out of there.
I think what would be so hard is, I'm sure there are folks watching us now that don't know whether their cabin is still standing or not, because they're not able to get in and see or find out. Really, the information is very sketchy, so it must be difficult to be in that situation.
And Dee, right now, Hugh has told us that there's another area of concern, and
Numbers on the field has been contacted. There were about 3 Oldwood fence posts that were knocked down. Farmers, 724. Lateral will work up and down on that, and the farmers went to
Pouring around also units information, subject 27 at status is clear, address and NAPA. Update information at 716.
if the socket and the light is okay. Copy. 2824. Fires 11 chauffeurs.
One more time for their greatest adventure of all.
Yeah, right like that. Perfect. Okay, this is our first run through. Gretchen and John, despite the wild weather, this party has all the look and feel of the big Hollywood premiere. And if you haven't guessed it right now, the mode of dress here is Western. Look around, everyone's dressed in Western attire. That's also the theme of the movie. Right over my shoulder, we have a country and Western band. Let's take a look around here. Let's ask some people what they think of the movie. Yeah, she's drunk. What do you think of the movie? So there, I come back. I say, Gretchen and John.
You don't want to go to them, just turn to them. We'll have them at your side.
From there,
this side will be Frank and
okay, we'll keep them. From there I go, Gretchen, John, Frank Marshall, Kathleen Kennedy have premiered 7 movies here in Boise over the past few years. All that money is donated to charity. They're worthy recipients of the Key to the City. Earlier, I had a chance to talk to Frank and Kathleen about the making of this film. Here's what they had to say.
Should I give him the bird?
The Ron Bird? He's in Salt Lake, isn't he?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing?
Not much. What are you doing?
No, we're gonna split and come back. A wreck right now. There's not much left. Total destruction here. This building housed the gymnasium, the administrative offices, a few classrooms. It's total loss. This, John and Doris, you can see this is all that's left of the Meridian Middle School. Just the shell of the structure after the fire ravaged through here earlier today. This building housed administrative offices, the gymnasium, and some classrooms. There are more buildings around back, but this fire happen just 4 days before the end of the school year. BB in Boise, Idaho's news channel.
Forward, right back.
You know what's kind of neat is we can see the rocks better now. They got rid of all the brush.
The waterfall, you can't see it.
Okay, forward, please. And
What? But the luggage needs to go back.
And it looks like it burned real hot here.
This is where it came through extremely hot.
How does it rip it go?
And there's one place up here that's worse.
Glad I didn't have the job of putting them over there. It's a lot of work.
So there were slides along right through this area here.
Actually, right at the end.
Forward one stroke, please.
That would let you Idahoans decide the abortion debate for yourselves. But anti-abortion and pro-choice groups both oppose the bill, calling for a November advisory vote. State Affairs Chairman Pam Bankson sponsored the referendum bill, saying lawmakers have heard the experts. Now it's time to hear from you.
And I have a great deal of confidence in that Idaho electorate not to be fooled, not to let any group pull the wool over their eyes.
Pro-choice advocates say the referendum would drag out debate through November. The Right to Life movement says lawmakers would sidetrack their responsibilities by handing the issue back to voters. Right now, the fate of House Bill 625 is being debated in front of the Senate State Affairs Committee. That bill would ban abortion as a means of birth control and is the center of controversy at the State House. News Center 7's Jake Putnam has been following the debate all session and, of course, today. Jake, what is the status of the hearing right now?
Well, as you recall, debate on House Bill 625 came in front of the Senate Affairs Committee last Wednesday. It was then that they requested to bring in constitutional scholars to debate the legality of that bill. And there, as you can see, there's a break in the action over my shoulder in the Gold Room. That's where it's all happening. And right now I have Senator Roger Mattson. He is the sponsor of the bill. Roger, what's going on in there, and how does 625 look right now?
First question, Jake, they've had 4 constitutional law scholars speak. They have 2 more yet to hear. We won't know how 625 is going. We'll know how it's going until the vote, of course. I feel that there'll be 3 motions made: 1 to hold the bill, which will fail; 1 to amend the bill, which will fail; 1 to pass the bill, which will succeed 7-4. That's what I'm projecting and hoping for.
Well, Dee, you heard that, and we're going to stand by here through the 6 o'clock cast, and we'll see what happens.
All right, glad you're there to keep us posted, Jake. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. We have just received word that the Senate State Affairs Committee just wrapped up debate on Idaho's restrictive abortion bill and sent that bill that bans abortion as a means of birth control to the full Senate floor for a vote.
News Center 7's Jake Putnam has been following the abortion debate all session long and joins us live now from the State House. Jake?
Bob and Dee, a lot of excitement here on the 4th floor of the State House, where right across the way there in the Gold Room, they indeed voted 7-4 to send this bill to the floor of the Senate. As you said before, debate was not as emotional as we saw earlier at Boise State University. It mostly centered around constitutional questions. So we could see a vote possibly next week.
All right. Jake, thank you very much. Any other reaction that you were able to gather before you came out?
Dee, right now I have Representative Montgomery, who just stepped in from outside the committee room, and you kind of fathered this bill all the way through the House. Your reaction?
Well, I know that the senators have agonized over this decision as we did in the House. I respect their judgment and the decision they've made. I think we'd have to be cautiously optimistic now that the bill will pass on the Senate floor.
What do you see some of the problems on the Senate floor?
Well, there have been a number of questions raised about the constitutionality of the bill. Obviously, there will be arguments pro and con on that. As you know, I've talked to many legal scholars on those issues, and it seems like you get as many different opinions as you do scholars. So I think that'll be the focus of the debate, will be the constitutionality.
Okay, thank you. Representative Montgomery. Back to you, Bob and Dee. A lot of excitement here. We'll have more coming up tonight at 10.
All right, Jake, thank you very much.
Get it, Jake?
What kind of shove are you using there?
It's a special loaded 308 to develop the pressure. It develops 65, 75,000 psi. The blank cartridge that has a crimp on the end, there's no wad because there's no place for the wad to go. That's all it takes to do the job. We use this on all the ungulates from little old white tail on up to elk, caribou. I've never caught a moose myself. Don't know why. There's some down here. Oh, okay.
Yes, loud clear.
Ready? Here's the rest of the, here's the rest of the samples he's taken. Breakfast leaving there, we'll be able to.